6.5, average value of a function. Essential questions. What's the average value of a function? How is it represented in an integral? What's the difference between average rate of change and average value of a function? When we talk about arithmetic mean, we're talking about adding up all the values and dividing by n. In a function, we're going to be adding an infinite number of values. So how are we going to handle this? Let's take a look at the next page. What we'll do is we'll first start off with a finite number. So we're going to take all the y values, add them up, divided by the number. Now in our interval, if we take the interval and divide by n, that'll create our delta x. So let's write n in a different way. So we're going to solve for n, and we're going to have a new way to write n. And then I'm going to substitute it right into here, and then rewrite the expression distributing the delta x to each one of the f of x's. So now I'm going to have a Riemann sum right here. And notice that this is the heights and these are the widths. Now remember, this is finite. I want to now get it into infinite. So it represents all of the y values in the interval. So I'm going to let n go to infinity. And that will create this expression, which is an integral. And so this represents what we call the average value of f. Geometrically, what does that look like? So let's go ahead and write this up again. We discovered that f average is equal to 1 over b minus a times the integral from a to b of f of x dx. And I'm going to take this constant and put it to the other side. B minus a times f of f average is equal to the integral a to b f of x dx. Now this right here is a product, and this represents the width of the interval, and this is the height right here. This represents the height. So these two numbers together really give an area of the rectangle, and that is equating to the area under the curve. So this represents area under the curve, and this represents the area of the rectangle whose height is f average. So that's a way to view f average. All right, this is called the mean value theorem for integrals. Let's take a look at average rate of change versus average value of a function. So average rate of change, students a lot of times get these two mixed up. Rate of change is the slope of the line between 2 points. Average value will be that height of the rectangle whose area is equal to the area under the curve. And the representations for the average are different. Take a look at those as well. All right, let's go ahead and do a problem. Let's try to find f average. So f average will be equal to 1 over b minus a integral from a to b of f of x dx. Our b is 2, take away -1, integral from -1 to 2 of 1 plus x squared dx. And if you put that in the calculator, that answer will be 2. So that is the average value. Kind of gives you an idea of the spread of the y's. Here's how the AP test might ask. Pretty straightforward, average value. Here's another way they may ask it. So there's not all the detail. They're just giving you some information and asking you to find a representation in terms of what we have here. So there's our answer here. Let's take a look at this problem. This is a limit, and I went ahead and rewrote the limit into a fraction form, and I went ahead and I looked at this expression right here, and that is an area accumulator, which I represented by the fundamental theorem of calculus, and then resubstituted, and then I figured out this answer is f of x. It's actually the definition of a derivative. So this is an example of an average rate of change, not an average value. Here's another typical question where it's part of a 2 or 3 part problem. We find f of x, and once f of x is found, we find its average. All right, your turn. Go ahead and stop the screencast and see if you can find the average value for each one of those. Now, the answers are going to be in exact form, so you might want to practice actually finding the antiderivative and then evaluating. And here are the answers. Here's another question that they like to ask using a graph. What's the average value of f of x on this interval? Stop the screencast and see what you can do. And here's the answer. It's 2/7.